Real loud.
Tom Grover. So history tells us that violence has always been a part of human nature, and that times for nonviolence have come up. The Great Transformation in 1800 BC or so, when all the major religions started being formed, was a major movement against nonviolence. I guess we have. So what I'm saying is it's innate kind of in human history, and so I guess we have to believe that it's our time now, our generation, to change all this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I have to do that. But
Was there another question? I'm just being serious. I was at a conference at a university with all these leading anthropologists, and they invited me to come in, and they've been studying that question. So there's maybe you study this, I don't know this, there's 2 or 3 indigenous communities on the planet. They had spent a lot of time in this remote corner of Indonesia, which is a perfectly nonviolent community. Interestingly, matriarchal. How did they get that? Thousands of years living very poorly, but meticulously nonviolent. The anthropologists and new books, this is what King was right. It's such an exciting moment. All this new stuff is coming out about nonviolence. Don't read, you're saying history teaches us. No, some probably white male rich writer wrote it and we say that's history. What's the history of nonviolence? We know a lot of the history of violence, but there's an alternative history and it's all coming out. All the biblical studies about nonviolence, the new studies in religions, and the histories of movements. But they're saying, the anthropologists are, no. Are you ready? Nonviolence is innate. I think for the Judeo-Christian community, that's the story of Genesis. I think it's nonviolence. And we were all vegetarians in the Garden of Eden. And then it led to murder. So we rejected our nonviolence. And what happened after thousands and thousands of years? We trained ourselves in violence, we institutionalized violence, and now after 1,000 years we think to be human is to be violent. Or look at the animals, they're violent. Well, they're all messed up because we're all messed up, I think. And the vision in Isaiah is the lion and the lamb and the child and no harm in all God's mountain. The visions are always about a nonviolent community with creation. What I think we're called to do is return to who we were. To be who, in fact, we already are, the beloved child of the God of peace. Peacemakers, peaceful people. But you and I are brainwashed. Most of us, since we were a week old, we're already getting violence. But as soon as we got into school, if we weren't abused by our parents or violence in the family, then we got violence in school, and war's been going on how many hundreds of years permanently now? And that's the normal thing. We all think it's normal. We're fighting that, resisting it, and we're trying to reclaim our inner humanity and be who we already are. That's what I believe. Because I think if God is a God of nonviolence, then we were created to be people of nonviolence. And we've totally rejected that. But now we're on the brink, and King says we got to wake up. So I say, friends, life is short. Let's get with the program. I thought you might laugh at that, but I was trying to say. We have 1 or 2 other comments, and then we kind of officially resolve everything. Who's good? Yeah, okay.
I say that very fact we stand in fight violence, because it says, even our own families will come again this week, protect this turns over, because truth is one we
So what are you saying about that?
Well, what I'm saying is not that we would be violent, but by standing up for the truth, human nature, what it is going to be violent against us. The opposers of truth.
I wouldn't say human nature. I would say the world of violence or the system. But he's saying, didn't Christ say that? It's taken me a long time to understand Jesus, and I don't understand. But this is like postgraduate, postdoctoral nonviolence. Sermon on the Mount is that's the catechism, should be the catechism of every Christian. It's the how-to manual, how to practice nonviolence and love your enemies. Gandhi read from it every morning and every evening for 45 years. That's how we became nonviolence. And we have to train ourselves and teach each other how to practice nonviolence. But Jesus says, the minute you walk into a world of violence and start talking about nonviolence, people are going to get you. And you're not going to be disarming George Bush or Hitler. You know, the first thing, your parents or spouse or children are going to be mad at you. That's where it begins, and that's my experience. You know, I never understood his question. Do you think I've come to bring peace? No, I've come to bring division. Sometimes it's poorly translated as the sword. So we think, oh, we get to kill for Jesus. No, it's a lament. You know, I was preaching against the war in one of my churches. I had all these poor churches in New Mexico, except for this one church up in the Rocky Mountains, a little tiny community of retired Republican military families from Texas. I showed up as their pastor. It was a major setback. And I said very simple stuff. Love one another. We will kill. Forgive everyone. The entire community, it's an incredible experience, except for 2 people, went to the Arch Bishop and I was removed from one day. And the charge was I had brought division. It's not funny because if you want to know why your priest or your minister doesn't speak out against war, there's a reason. We were trained to bring unity at all costs. This is the story of white South African priests and ministers to the Nazis, priests and ministers. Why they went along with the Nazis. Because you don't want to get kicked out. You don't want to divide. And I thought, they're right. I'm a failure. I'm a disaster. Then I go back and I hear Jesus. And it's a lament. Of course I want to bring peace. When he was born, the angels started singing peace on earth. They couldn't contain themselves. These whole messages, peace be with you. You know, it's what he says when he comes back. Blessed are the peacemakers. Everything is love, peace, compassion, nonviolence, justice. This is God's will. But my presence in such a world brings division. And in an empire of violence, you get killed. Now, in the United States, I found, they probably won't kill us. You know, unless you work with them. They will put you in prison. And if you're interested, you can see me afterwards. I know, but people will get upset. For those of you in these last few years who have been vigilant and speaking out against the Iraq war, and you're out there with your son, and somebody's honking horn, or if you have a beloved relative or a dear friend saying, I'm all for the war, we got to kill those people, or we got to continue this war in Afghanistan. There's so many things, but personally, this is your chance to really practice nonviolence. This is your moment. Let's see how nonviolent you want to be. Really love people and win them over, because that's what Jesus did. That's what Gandhi and King and Garden did. Yeah, this is unfortunately the way it works. And the challenge is to go as deep as we can into nonviolence, to win everyone over with our nonviolent love. In the methodology of nonviolence, someone's going to do violence to me. I continue to insist on the truth of our humanity, but I don't retaliate with violence. The world says there's only 2 things you can do: fight back or run away. Jesus says we stand there. It's going to be hard. And we say, don't do violence to me. You know, I am a human being. Until then, you will continue to accept suffering without retaliating until the scales fall from his eyes. He recognizes his mistake. We become great friends and live happily ever after. That's how the program works, according to Jesus and Gandhi. And we're just beginning this. Gandhi says it's like we're at the moment that Thomas Edison discovered electricity. We're just there. Nonviolence is infinitely more important. But you and I have got to get with the program and be part of this grassroots movement to transform the world and work for, no matter what the persecution